morning, humanity. It's February 15th, 2021, and it's your favorite time of the week again because it's Mondays with Bev and Paul. And hi, everybody. My name's Paul.
Good morning. This is Bev.
Yes, sirree. And we have a dear friend. Let me see if I look at him this way. There he is. Hey, John. Peace, love, tie dye.
Oh yeah, BioTouch.
Hey, welcome everybody, and welcome. You are going to meet one of the favorite people in the BioTouch history, and that is John Munno calling into us from Connecticut. Hey, John.
Welcome, John.
Greetings, Bev and Paul. Thank you for having me on this historical day of our founding fathers, George Washington. I guess it's a good time to
Oh, that's right. It's
talk about the
President's Day.
founding.
That's true, right? Thank you for. I thought you were going to talk.
Whoa.
I thought you were going to talk about me, founding father, or something.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
sort of.
yeah, that's why I thought it was historic. So, hey, if you have anything you'd like to say to John, you can post it on here as we discuss how he got involved. Here's Kai over there in Illinois. She's saying good morning. And we're just going to jump right in. This all's happened because of Kai and her Flashback Fridays. And so she got John to come
Right.
on the set here. And we're going to read this little thing that we have about John. BioTouch changed John's life by opening the door of self-awareness over 30 years ago, 1992. That ignited a flame and passion for self-discovery and inner growth and exploration that continues to this very day. Woohoo! You always had the words, John.
Yep.
And then we posted
You
his
got
whole
it.
we posted his whole synopsis on our Facebook line there too. So check it out. So
Right.
John, we want to hear the story. Bev wants to hear the story. I don't even know if she's ever really heard the
I
story
do.
about how you.
I don't. I want to know how. I want to know how in the world you found BioTouch.
Yeah, good story.
Literally.
That was a good story. It's a
Tell
good
us, John.
story. Well, it was, I was, before I went to Hawaii, I was traveling around Asia. So they had a nickname for me, which was Borneo. That's what my Hawaiian kahuna called me, was Borneo. And I was traveling around Asia for a year on a bicycle. And, we're living in this COVID time where there's a lot of isolation. And believe it or not, when you're traveling by yourself around the world, you do have a feeling of isolation. I ended up settling in Hawaii and starting a new life, but still felt a little on the outside of things. And I had had some back issues for a long time. And a friend of mine was a massage therapist, and she had told me about this place called BioTouch. I think I met her in the bike shop when I was working, and she came in, I fixed her bike, and then she said, try out this BioTouch. She said, it doesn't cost anything. You can go leave a donation. They touch you on different points on the body, and it's just kind of interesting. And the thing, when I was in Asia, I spent a lot of time in native tribes and villages and things like that. And I found out that people would heal themselves by taking herbs. People would go to the witch doctor. And then I started finding that there's other ways to heal instead of just having surgery or taking pills. So I was intrigued to try this technique. I went to the center in Hawaii at that time. And I remember meeting Paul, and I was a mess. I think I was hunched over, probably like that. And I was pretty desperate at that point in my life because I was in so much pain. I'd been dealing with this for a long time. And Paul did a session on me. And at that point, I didn't really feel anything. And I remember Paul said, what's going to happen? He says, tell you what, he says, you come twice a week for 1 year, and your life will be changed. And I said, okay. So I made that commitment. I came twice a week for sessions for a year. And at the end of the year, I wasn't 100% better, but I looked at how much that I improved. And I'm like, I'm going to give it another year. and I ended up working for the foundation for 15 years.
Yeah. You visited and stayed.
Yeah, and that was the big thing you always used to say. I think he tricked me.
Oh, John, he can do that very.
The trickster.
The
Yeah. Yeah,
trickster.
yep.
But
Yep.
I'll tell you, the greatest thing that ever happened to this foundation was you stepping in those doors, John Munno. You know, you were the guiding light for this organization, the growth of it. Um, you were our what first generation teachers after Cheryl
First
Joy Zella,
teacher,
my
yeah,
time.
first
Yeah.
teacher.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
and then you went on to teach other people because didn't you teach Bev?
Yeah, I think Lonnie was my second, first instructor. I think was Lonnie that went on to carry on the torch. And then, yeah, teaching was a big part of what I loved in BioTouch. So I taught classes all over the United States. People just think BioTouch is really small, but I taught classes in California, taught classes in New York, and then even as a private instructor, taught classes in Montana, Utah, and all over the country.
Wow,
So
that's
taught a lot of
great.
people.
Wow. That part I did not know. That's exciting.
Well, see, he's a very popular man, and also
He,
we got Paula here saying hi, John, and Jenny's saying hi to you. So we got some folks listening to you. So careful what you say here.
yeah. So I'm just kind of curious. Do you have any like special memories? Anything that just pops out that you'd like to share with us? You on your journey with BioTouch?
About the technique, or for me it was a different experience than a lot of people, because shortly after I became a certified practitioner and instructor, Paul and Cheryl invited me to move in with them. So yes, so I got the experience of living with Paul and Cheryl, and at that point, then Jennifer came and Rachel, and we had a whole community that we lived in. And actually I was we had a bio house. We had a bio house in Hawaii at the Honolulu Center. And for us, it was 7 days a week that we did this. And our whole life was basically eating, sleeping, and drinking BioTouch. And
Wow.
BioTouch for us became a metaphor for many things in life. It became a metaphor for world peace. It became a metaphor for changing the planet. It became a metaphor for us youngsters at the time. We were in our 20s. At that point, and we had all these ideas of, when you are in your 20s, you have all this energy and you're ready to change the world. And we saw BioTouch as the tool, and, to be able to do that.
Wow, that's powerful, because that hasn't changed at all, Paul, John. I mean, you were holding that way back then, and that's what our work is still doing. Because I wanted to ask you, I just wanted to say that yes, you were my first instructor. I took the practitioner training from you in Tucson in 2005. And I must say, it was your presentation that day that really stimulated me to want to go to the next step. So I signed up at the end of that class for the certification program, and it was amazing. The biohouse was still going on in those days. I had my classrooms at the biohouse in Tucson, which is no longer, viable anymore, but kind of the last of that generation to get to go to the biohouse for that training. But, I've always thought, yep, John, you tricked me. So you're the next generation of tricksters, because look what I'm doing here. Okay. But, I wanted to ask you, because you're speaking so amazing about what you feel BioTouch is holding in this time. Paul and I talk about this all the time, but you've really brought it forward. What is your, you've already kind of spoken about it, but your feelings about BioTouch in this whole mix of what's happening on the planet right now? Do you have any insights or things you want to share with us about your feelings about that?
I do, in the sense that, like, right now we're in such a partisan place in our country, especially. where people just can't even talk to one another, and just civil communication and things like that have broken down to the point where people just want to kill each other just because you're a left or you're right or you're a Republican or a Democrat. And the thing that was always, wonderful about BioTouch is that it allowed everybody to participate. So we had Jehovah's Witnesses, we had Baha'is, we had, shamans, we had metaphysical people, New Age people, Catholics, everybody come to the center. And everybody had all different, political spheres, and we'd have our pauhanas on Friday where, we'd be talking around the table with all different parts of opinions about things from one end to the other. But when that was all said and done, there was the greeting. And when you touched that greeting, all that faded away, and it brought people together, as Paul always says, that one thing that we all share, which is we have this body, and this body is in pain, and that, united all of us, brought us together. And that's what BioTouch did, is it broke down all those barriers that separated us, and it brought everybody together so that we can all get along despite our differences.
Oh man, that is so beautiful. And it's so amazing that this is still continuing. It's exactly the vision that we're all still holding, because we know that, I keep thinking that BioTouch has been hovering and building over these last 30 years because it's really, really needed at this time. I think it's really one of those ways by which humanity can breach and break down all those barriers between us. It's such an amazing thing. And you just gave more power to what we have been holding about the greeting. That greeting opens up this whole breath in the body, doesn't it? And it just lets us be with each other. So that was gorgeous. Thank you very much, John.
So
for
it's
that.
funny too, because you, as you were talking, Bev, you mixed Paul and John up. You started to say John and Paul, but John, and that's always happened, John. Ever since we've been together, people still ask me to this day in our manual, show us that old manual that you have there. They even still to this day, those two pictures in the end, they go, "Is that you? No, is that you?" And
no, that's
John. No, that's Paul. And
hey, maybe there's supposed to be a Paul and John show, or just John Paul.
John Paul. So people still mix us up. They don't mix us up a little too much now because you're all shaven off and no mustache. But,
yeah.
So show us that little. You were showing us your little manual you had when you first trained there. That little 3-binder. There it is.
There it is.
The old, where we used to be called biomagnetic touch healing.
Wow. Well, this is history here. Where John's bringing in the history.
This was my little Bible. So whenever I taught around the United States, this came with me, and it had like every piece of paper, every document that we ever had.
Wow.
It even has all the newsletters that Jennifer would make, at the BioHouse there in Hawaii way back when.
Crazy.
It has every single newsletter and.
Right, and we're hoping that Kai, who's going to do Flashback Fridays, starts publishing more. There's some really nice articles in there. What's another great memory that you had from those days? That BioHouse thing. People don't know. We had a house in Kailua. We had one in Kaimuki. We had one in Tucson, and then we created this center here. The song we're going to do at the end, which you helped build. You were always the maintenance man too. There wasn't anything you couldn't figure out, John. If there was a broken thing, you knew how to fix it. That's what I always loved. But you took initiative. That's what I loved about you. You didn't have to tell you to do things. You just saw a need and met it. That's what's awesome about you.
I remember that story, Paul. That's when we had the Hawaii Center, and then we opened up the center in Tucson, and Paul would go back and forth between running the two centers. And when he went to Tucson, he left the center to me, Jennifer, and Rachel to run. So we were all in our 20s, and we were, falling, kicking and screaming, falling, making mistakes, blowing things up. And, but one time when Paul was gone, the faucet in the back room started leaking. And I took the initiative to go to the hardware store, buy the parts, and fix the faucet. And I remember when Paul came back, he was so impressed. He said, "I'm going to leave more often now."
And it doesn't take much to impress Paul, evidently.
Fix a faucet and I love you.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we also wanted to share with all of you that John, in his ability to create, he's a creator. And he
Yes.
has why don't you tell us about what you're doing now in your work? We have it posted up here, johnmunnophotography.com. Share a little about how you've taken that creative juice to what you're doing now and why. It's the same purpose.
Yeah, healing was such a part of my life. I spent 15 years working for the foundation. And then after that, I went off on my own and became a homeopath and a sclerologist and herbalist, and did that for another, 6, 7, 8 years. And then I got worked in a holistic wellness department at a local health food store and was the manager of that. So, healing just became a part of my life, because I had been so broken. I had been so broken, I really did write the book on brokenness. And then to be able to heal from that brokenness was, to me, just such a sign of life, and the power of life, and the power of love, and the power of spirit and God, and whatever you call it. That just became kind of my trumpet call, was to help people to rebuild their lives and become healthy and whole and happy, happy, healthy, and whole. But as time went on, after 25 years in the holistic field, life pushed me in a different direction, and it brought me into art and creativity, especially the art. As a photographer, I always had a love for nature. And so, and part of when I was doing BioTouch, I was always going to hospitals and spending weeks visiting people and working on people in ICU and this and that. And I always walked down these hospital walls and looked at these terrible photos on the wall and said, "You got to do better than that." So kind of my purpose now has become to bring healing to people, the healing powers of nature, through photography. So a lot of my work is featured in hospitals all through Connecticut. I have a big installation. My biggest one was at Yukon Hospital, where I have 8 floors of hospital beds, 150 photos in every single room. And people, I still get like letters from them about how people love it and how it brings healing to them, and how grateful they are. So that's become a big part of my work, is bringing, big pieces of artwork and of nature to all different kinds of medical and healing environments.
Wow.
I'll tell you, folks.
John, when that is such an amazing story, because beauty, we're here to help. We're part of the whole planetary web. Humanity is. And the more that, this, I always tie this in with BioTouch, it opens us up to our own beauty and the beauty around us. And when we become whole, we can really literally step in and be custodians and stewards. And your story reminds me of how you have, through your wholeness and your healing and your love, sharing that beauty with everybody else. It's just part of the journey, I think. And you're certainly, showing that example as to the whole possibilities, claiming your birthright, happy, healthy, loved, gorgeous. It's wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that.
So you should all check out John Munno Photography. He's got a book that he's printed. You can he sends it to you, download it. Beautiful pictures. And lots of inspiring words too. John, you have become excellent in your expression of an idea, not only in photography but in your verbal expression. And so go to johnmunnophotography.com. check out his healing work that he's doing now. And John, I just want to tell you, I love you, brother. I am so grateful that we were pushed together over 30 years ago, about 30 years ago.
It's been a wonderful journey, Paul, and I thank you for helping me, because I was just an angry kid, angry at the world, mad at the world. And, you helped teach me to love the world, and you helped teach me to be a better person. And, a lot of what I've accomplished has been from all the things you've taught me from our many years of living in the refiner's fire.
Refiner's fire. All right. So,
wow.
Again, thank you, John. We're going to play a little song by Horace Barnes, and it's going to be called Down on Pima Street. And that song is about our Pima Street Center here in Tucson that, again, John helped build, create, and run here in Tucson, Arizona. Again, John, thank you. Keep
Thank
on
you,
touching.
John.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, John.
We'll see you all next week.
Bye.
From all around Tucson, they come here every day. They do a lot of touching, and they do it without pay. They all do it gladly because they are so sweet. Bless the staff of practitioners down on Pima Street. Once they all had ailments, stress and other things. They know how to get relief, that's what bio-touching brings. They love